To understand one of the most significant risk pathways for pancreatic cancer, we must first understand a condition called chronic pancreatitis, a persistent, smoldering fire within the organ. This is not a fleeting illness but a serious long-term state of disease that fundamentally alters the pancreas, setting the stage for potentially devastating consequences. Comprehending this connection is not about inciting fear. It is about providing the critical knowledge necessary for proactive management and vigilant self-care. It is a crucial piece of the puzzle for anyone seeking to understand and mitigate their risk for one of the most challenging cancers known to medicine. The pathway from inflammation to malignancy is a well-documented biological sequence, and grasping its mechanics is the first and most vital step toward interrupting its progression. By dissecting this process, we can transform a daunting diagnosis into a clear, actionable plan, empowering individuals with the tools they need to protect their health with authority and purpose. Chronic pancreatitis is defined as a state of long-standing, unremitting inflammation of the pancreas. Unlike acute pancreatitis, which can be a single, severe event from which the organ may recover, chronic pancreatitis is a relentless, progressive condition. This persistent inflammatory state inflicts continuous damage on the delicate pancreatic tissues. Over time, the functional cells of the pancreas, which are responsible for producing vital digestive enzymes and hormones like insulin, are systematically destroyed. As these essential cells perish, the body's natural healing response kicks in. But in this pathological context, the healing is flawed. Instead of regenerating healthy, functional tissue, the body replaces the damaged areas with dense, fibrous scar tissue, a process known as fibrosis. This scarring fundamentally and irreversibly alters the architecture and function of the organ. The pancreas becomes hardened, shrunken, and less capable of performing its critical duties, leading to severe digestive problems, malnutrition, and diabetes. This slow, insidious destruction is the hallmark of chronic pancreatitis, a quiet but relentless process that erodes the organ from within, year after year, decade after decade. This process initiates a dangerous and self-perpetuating cycle of damage. The constant inflammation acts as a persistent injury signal to the pancreatic cells. In response, these cells are forced into a state of perpetual crisis management. They die off at an accelerated rate due to the toxic inflammatory environment, and to compensate, the remaining healthy cells are driven to divide and regenerate much more rapidly than they normally would. This frantic, high-turnover state of cell division is the core of the problem. Each time a cell divides, its entire genetic blueprint, its DNA, must be perfectly copied. Under normal circumstances, this is a highly precise process with multiple layers of error checking and repair mechanisms. However, in the context of chronic inflammation, this system is placed under immense strain. The inflammatory environment itself is mutagenic, meaning it can directly damage DNA. Furthermore, the sheer speed and frequency of cell division dramatically increase the statistical probability of a mistake occurring during DNA replication. Think of it as a factory production line running at triple speed with compromised quality control. Errors are not just possible, they are statistically inevitable. With each new generation of cells born from this chaotic cycle of death and regeneration, the risk of a critical genetic error mutation accumulates. Here is the direct connection to cancer. It is this decades-long cycle of injury, inflammation, and frantic cellular repair that dramatically increases the probability of a cancerous mutation taking hold. A single mutation in a non-critical gene might be harmless. However, as these errors accumulate over countless cycles of cell division, there is an ever-increasing chance that a mutation will strike a gene that controls cell growth, division, or death. These are the gatekeeper genes, such as tumor suppressor genes or proto-oncogenes. A mutation that disables a tumor suppressor gene is like cutting the brakes on a car. A mutation that activates a proto-oncogene is like jamming the accelerator to the floor. When a cell acquires one or more of these critical mutations, it can break free from the normal regulatory controls that govern its behavior. It begins to divide uncontrollably, ignore signals to die, and invade surrounding tissues. This is the very definition of a cancer cell. The chronic inflammation, therefore, does not just damage the pancreas, it creates a genetically unstable and highly fertile environment for cancer to arise. The persistent inflammatory signals and growth factors that flood the tissue to promote healing can be hijacked by these mutated cells. perversely fueling their growth and proliferation. The very mechanisms meant to repair the organ are co-opted to build a tumor. Identifying the key risk factors for developing chronic pancreatitis is therefore paramount to cancer risk mitigation. The most significant and well-established cause is heavy, long-term alcohol consumption. Alcohol is directly toxic to pancreatic cells and is responsible for the majority of chronic pancreatitis cases in the Western world. It triggers inflammatory pathways and promotes the formation of scar tissue, directly initiating and perpetuating the cycle of damage. Another major modifiable risk factor is smoking. Tobacco smoke contains numerous potent carcinogens and toxins that not only increase the risk of developing chronic pancreatitis, but also independently and dramatically accelerate the progression from pancreatitis to pancreatic cancer. The combination of heavy drinking and smoking is particularly dangerous, creating a synergistic effect that multiplies the risk far beyond either factor alone. Beyond lifestyle choices, certain genetic predispositions play a powerful role. Conditions like hereditary pancreatitis, caused by mutations in genes such as PRSS1, carry an extremely high lifetime risk of developing pancreatic cancer, to 40% or more. Finally, autoimmune conditions, where the body's own immune system mistakenly attacks and inflames the pancreas, can also lead to chronic pancreatitis and a subsequently elevated cancer risk. For those living with chronic pancreatitis, this isn't a guaranteed path to cancer, but it is an urgent call for vigilant management. Understanding the link between inflammation and cancer transforms the diagnosis from a passive sentence to an active challenge. The primary goal becomes breaking the cycle of damage. Controlling the underlying inflammation is the most critical intervention. This begins with aggressive lifestyle modification. The absolute and complete cessation of alcohol and smoking is non-negotiable. It is the single most effective action one can take to slow the progression of the disease and lower cancer risk. Dietary management, often involving a low-fat diet and pancreatic enzyme supplements to ease the digestive burden on the organ, is also essential to reduce inflammatory triggers. Crucially, this condition necessitates a close, long-term partnership with a gastroenterologist or pancreatic specialist. Regular monitoring through imaging, such as MRI or endoscopic ultrasound and blood tests, allows your medical team to track the state of your pancreas, manage symptoms, and watch for any early suspicious changes that might signal the development of cancer. This proactive surveillance is your essential defense strategy, offering the best possible chance to intercept problems at their earliest, most manageable stage. It is a path of control, vigilance, and empowerment.